fellow book nerds, this is Gabby and today we're going to be talking about all the books I read in March. So March was the worst month so far in 2021-22, but it wasn't terrible. I did manage to read 10 books, so that's really good. That's only one less than previous month, so we're not like despairing over here. I did find the last couple of days really difficult. I don't know, I just wasn't in the mood. I was like, I could be like trying to cram all this reading in, or I could just not. So that's kind of where I was, and I was just like, I just want to watch Friends, and I was also really busy, so it was difficult. But we got to 10 and some really interesting ones, so I'm very excited to talk to you about them. Okay, first on the list is The Death of Vivek OG by Akwaeke Emezi. So this book is what do you call it? A contemporary fiction, I guess. It's set in Nigeria. The book kind of starts and tells us right away that Vivek OG is dead, and we have to figure out throughout the book who Vivek was, what his life meant, how he died, why he died, and his story. So it's a queer romance, a queer character, and it's kind of about prejudice, about homophobia, about accepting yourself, what impact it can have if you don't have a supportive community and you aren't able to express yourself. There was a couple, I guess, incest. There's cousins doing stuff with cousins, so I was a bit like, oh, okay. But the book itself does challenge it, as in like, it's not like, oh yeah, this is completely normal, not weird at all. But there's just so many topics in the book that were touched upon that were just so meaningful and sad, and you just wanted to like sit there and think about it. And the audiobook was absolutely brilliant as well, so I'd really recommend it on Scribd, so if you guys want to check it out, you can. But it was just such a beautiful, beautiful story, and it broke my heart, and it made me uncomfortable too. And you're meant to be uncomfortable, so I'm not saying it was a bad thing. You sit there and you like think about it and you're like, wow, okay. And then the ending, oh my god. It did not go how I thought it would go. But overall, it's such a beautiful story, and I ended up giving it 5 stars. So we started the month real strong, and I would highly, highly recommend it. Next up, I read The Duchess War by Courtney Milan. So this one is a historical romance. So we follow a girl who is betrothed to this guy that's kind of an asshole, but she's poor and her aunts are her sole caretakers, but she knows that one of them's going to die, the one with money is going to die, and then her and her other aunt's going to, be desolate. So she's like, I just want to marry someone, even if they're an asshole. And she's kind of like, quiet and a mouse and all that. And then the male love interest, is he a Dutch? No, a Dutch. A Duke. I think he said, yeah, because it's a Duchess warrior. He's a Duke, and he's rich, and there's a romance. I really, really, really loved it. I read it as part of the Godathon, and what I really, really enjoyed about it was, like I said in the vlog, if you watch that it just tells a story about this romance, but also mentions like other historical issues, but also like issues of the time and stuff. So like it was women's rights and like workers' rights, that kind of thing. It was quite spicy. I read book 3 in this 2 or 3 in the series as well, and that was a bit more spicy, so if you're into that, I would really recommend that book. But this one was still really good. I was really into the romance. It was so wholesome and beautiful, and I really, 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 really enjoyed it. So I ended up giving it 4 stars. Really solid romance if you're looking for something like that. Okay, third book I read was Gallant by V.E. Schwab. This book is a YA horror. I don't know. Listen, I did a review for this and I said it was a horror, and I said I saw that it was a horror, and it is not a horror, and it is also not YA. It's in middle grade. It's a whole argument. But I really enjoyed that review, by the way. I like talking like critically, although I have no knowledge or anything in my body. But anyway, and then someone said that they've never heard it described as horror, but I saw on Goodreads marked as horror. But the thing is, on Goodreads you can pretty much tag anything as anything, so what do I even know? I just saw that in comments and stuff as well. So I don't know where it came from. Maybe it's not supposed to be a horror. I don't know what the hell it's supposed to be. Some kind of fantasy, I guess. But we follow a young girl who's grew up in an orphanage, and one day she gets a letter from her uncle saying that he would like her to come back home, to the ancestral home, even though her mother and father are dead. And I'm not gonna tell you anymore because the synopsis spoils way too much. Like, spoils stuff that happens 50% into the book, and like, would you not want to just be on the, get on the ride? What? I don't know. Discover as you go along. I'm in a weird mood today. I've not filmed in a while, so maybe that's what. I thought it was perfectly fine, but nothing special either. So I gave it 3. Yeah, I'm gonna change it to 3. It was the hand that was like, don't be shy, girl. I need to stop being shy, but I need also reflection, Gallant, 3 stars. If you want to check out my whole review, please do. It's actually pretty cool, and I'm talking about why mismarketing a book can really hurt it, but probably not gonna hurt Gallant because it's by Schwab. So it's like a whole thing. If you watch the video, Next book I read was Monstrous by McKenna. It's an adult fantasy, but it's kind of like gothic fiction, it's set in this town near the sea, which is kind of like sad and all that, very gloomy, and we follow a woman who has this special blood power, and basically her blood can like sustain light, and she goes to work at this lighthouse to sustain the lighthouse, and her neighbor is like this super burly guy that's rumored to have killed his whole family and his wife, so that's really fun. I had very low expectations for this book because the Goodreads reviews were really bad, and average rating is pretty bad as well, but I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty decent. Like, it wasn't a new favorite or anything, but it did have a lot of compelling stuff happening. I enjoyed it. I mean, it took like too long. Like, the audiobook was 14 hours. Like, 7 of those hours was before the actual plot happened. But it was alright. I thought the characters were good. There was a lot of sleaziness, and there was a character that was just so like sexual assaulting everyone, and the main character was like, oh no, oops daisy, that could have been bad. And I'm like, okay, I feel like I would respond differently, but maybe you're used to different things. Oh, I also gave that one 3.5. I am way too generous. When I finish, I'm like, yeah, it's alright. I'm giving it 3. 3 stars for Monstrous. Fine, but upon reflection, there's not that much I'm gonna be like missing about it or wanting. I think I'll still maybe read the sequel, but yeah. Next up, we have The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie. Oh, and I have a physical copy, so I love it. So this book is a retelling of a Korean mythology story about a girl who gets sacrificed to the sea god in order to stop rain. So in this story, the actual girl, which Shim Chong, I think? Yeah, Shim Chong is the girl from the original mythology, but in this story, she's the girlfriend of main character's brother, and everyone thinks she will be sacrificed to the sea god because there's been like floods and all that kind of stuff, so they want to appease the sea god, but the brother doesn't want to let that happen, so Mina, our main character, decides to sacrifice herself instead, and we're taken to the underworld and trying to lift the curse. I absolutely love this book. It's beautifully written without being overtly purple if you're not into that kind of thing. It has so many amazing themes. I absolutely loved how the mythology original stories were weaved into it, how storytelling was such a big part of it. I loved Mina as the main character. I just think she has such a strength of character without being like the brawly, aggressive, tomboy, strong female character type. I really loved it. I have a whole video where I give you 5 reasons to read this book, so if I'm not convincing you right now, go check that out. But I gave it 5 stars. I absolutely love it, and I just think it's so pretty. He's so pretty. Oh, why are you all not straight? I should not judge it for not being straight. Then I listened to the audiobook for Carmilla by Sheridan. This is a classical novel actually predating Dracula, which I didn't realize, and it's like a gothic classic. We follow a young woman who lives with her father, and one day they ran into this beautiful young girl called Carmilla, and spoiler alert, she's a vampire. So it was like one of the I don't know if it was the first vampire story, but it did predate Dracula, and a lot of the inspirations were taken, and it is very queer, so that's super cool to see something written in, what year was it written in? 1872, and it had queer lesbian characters, so that was super cool. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was well written, but you know, it's just like, when you read classics like that, I think you have a bit of a different, like, you have to appreciate that storytelling was different and they came up with the tropes that we use now, but we use them differently and stuff. So I really appreciate the story for what it was. I thought it was really impressive that this guy came up with this way back when in 19th century, and it was written well. The audiobook was performed well. It's just so short, and it does this thing that a lot of books from the period do, where we don't experience the events first person, but there's someone narrating it. And I don't mean like in the beginning of the story there comes a narrator and that's the story. No, there's like the story, and then one guy comes in, he's like, let me expose the shit out of it. But then that was so unnecessary, because we could have just found that out later, because that basically happens. It's just like took away all of the impact from the reveal, and I feel like that happens a lot. Like, even when you read like Jane Austen, there's so like always some character that comes back from traveling and just basically explains this big plot point. But I don't think Jane Austen's as prevalent for this, but I think what did I read Frankenstein. I don't think Frankenstein did it, but it definitely, like, gothic novels especially, I feel like can fall into this this trap of kind of like expositioning, not having a proper climax with the characters being actually involved in it. So that kind of was like, it was cool. I appreciate what it did. For some reason it came out on NetGalley, so I could read it for free, but then I also just listened to the audiobook, so it improved my NetGalley score because I reviewed it. But yeah, it was good. You should check it out if you're into vampires and want to read something that predates Dracula. Next up, I read A Spindle, Splintered by Alix E. Harrow. So this book is a retelling of Sleeping Beauty, or like a spin on the Sleeping Beauty story. We follow the main character, who's a girl who has this like fictional chronic illness where she knows she'll die before her 21st or something birthday, because she'll just probably fall asleep and never wake up, and so she considers herself like a sleeping beauty. And then it's a portal story where we travel between dimensions. It was alright is what I can say about it. It was fine. It was very short. I like what it had to say, but it just didn't like inspire any kind of fire in me, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, yeah, it was good. I feel like it's a scam because I have to buy 2 of these super tiny books for price of an actual normal book. I mean, $18 US. I bought it in pounds, but I don't know. It was like 11 or something. But it could just be a normal book. I don't understand, because I thought it was a companion novel, which I would have been fine. That's common practice. But 2 short stories / novellas, and they're direct sequels, so they just make one book. Just make your book. I don't understand. Yeah, it was fine, but I was a bit disappointed because I love Alix E. Harrow. But so far I had one really big win from her, which was $10,000 of January, and then I did really like Once and Future Witches, but just never thought about it too much, you know what I mean? Next up, I read Blood Scion by Deborah Falaye. This was a YA fantasy, yeah, it's a fantasy / kind of sci-fi vibes, kind of dystopian vibes. So in it we follow a Sloane, I think her name is, who's a 15-year-old girl who can basically incinerate people at touch / will, because she's descended from the Orisha god that's responsible for fire. I'm not sure, don't remember their name, but yeah, she's a descendant of an Orisha god. I think this is set in a Nigerian-inspired world, if I'm not wrong. And basically she can incinerate people at will, and she gets drafted into military. People don't know that she has this power, but she gets drafted into military because they have like child soldiers to like kill Scions, which is what she is. I really liked this book, and it was really well written and like really well plotted out, and had a lot of like very brutal scenes in it though. And I feel like, considering the main character is 15 years old, it felt a little bit weird that it was such a young character with such a brutal book. I wasn't traumatized by it or anything, but I am a grown-ass woman. I'm 24 years old, so I'm not exactly the target demographic. So I don't know, I'm like, exercise your own caution or whatever, but it was very brutal. I was surprised what the character had to do. I do feel like there's some parts were really overwritten, like we were told the same thing over and over. Like, I get it, I'm not stupid, I don't need to be told, like I don't need to be shown through exposition and through just good writing what the character's feeling and then also be verbally told it a second later. Like, I got it, I know how to read context. So that annoyed me. And then things that I thought should be quite important and have a big impact brought up once and then abandoned. And I was like, this should be a bigger deal. Why are we talking about this stupid thing that I know from context when this is just kind of like glanced over? So I don't get that, but it's something that could definitely be improved. And I think the characters got a really good storytelling like aspect of it down. Maybe just the writing like tightened a little bit because it was a very long book and I just felt like it could have been shorter because it was a little bit overwritten. I gave it 3.5 because, and I do think that it deserved it. It did a good job, and I would recommend it. It's just, yeah. Next up, I read Nothing by Blackened by Cassandra Khaw. So this is a horror novella and we follow a group of friends who go on like destination wedding to this haunted Japanese mansion because their bride is really into haunted stuff. I hated this book, I'm sorry, but it was not good. It was nonsensical. And that's what I can say about it. It was just nonsense. And not like nonsense on purpose, because yeah, the horror got, you know, bigger, so it got kind of like nonsensical later. But even in the beginning, and by nonsense I mean like I was reading the scene and couldn't find myself. I didn't understand what was happening. It was like shifting and stuff, and like the dialogue was super clunky. I don't know what it was. I felt really bad not liking this because I really wanted to like it. I really want to find horror I enjoy. And it was really cool because the author is Malaysian as well. It was set in Japan and like I really wanted to love it, but I just couldn't. And I had high expectations thinking I'd love it. Watch Books and Lala's, Kayla's reviews, and she didn't like it, and then I had my expectations lowered, and somehow still it felt like pulling teeth reading that book. I mean, it was disgusting and disturbing, I guess, but I don't know, I read some other like short horror books that really did it for me, and this one just didn't, so I gave it 1.5, and I just feel bad giving it 1 star. I don't think it deserves it because it wasn't like personally offensive, or it wasn't offensive in the sense of, oh my god, it is something really bad. It was just not a good book, so I give it 1.5. Next and last book I read in March was Barbarian Alien by Ruby Dixon. And now when you hear my rating, you're gonna be like, what? So this is the sequel to the I Splendid Barbarians series, and in it we follow a bunch of girls who got kidnapped by one type of alien, yeah, taken on the ship, treated terribly, then they crash landed on this planet and another type of alien found them, and now they're all mating and making babies. And I weirdly enjoyed this one way more than the first one. I think it was better written. I think the writing definitely improved. I think the relationship I liked more. I got over the weirdness. It didn't open with a sexual assault scene. You know, it's just like, it just made me feel better about everything. And I gave it 3.5 stars. And you might judge me, and that's fine. Judge me all you want. But I kind of want to keep on reading. I don't know. It kind of devolved into me not really liking it towards the end, or like just being a bit apathetic towards it. But the beginning I like the couple more, and I just thought it was fun. Like sometimes you just need alien smut in your life, and this fills the hole. Okay, well that was it for my review of March. Wrap up for March. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I read some pretty good books. I'm looking forward to April. Hopefully I'll read even more amazing books, because there's a lot of 3 and 3.5s this month, so hopefully we can go into the 5-star category next month. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you could comment, like, and subscribe, I really appreciate it. It really helps me out. But that's it from me, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!